Hello, everyone. Welcome. I can see lots of people are joining. So we always give everyone just a minute to log in and get themselves comfortable. So please do use this time to just make sure you can hear us and adjust your speakers. Do say hi in the chat. We love to know why you're here, and more importantly, where you're from as well. We love to see the global reach of our sessions. And then also do close down any other windows you've got so you can really be present. And then once that ticker stops going up quite so quickly, then we'll make a start. Oh, hello from Madagascar. That's just popped up on my screen. Welcome. Let me open the chat so I can see. Right into Madagascar. There we go. We do cover all the corners. Oh, thank you to everyone that's commenting. Some really lovely comments to start us off. The ticker's still going up. We'll give it another 30 seconds just to make sure everyone has a chance to get in the room where it happens. You can tell I've been watching Hamilton recently. Afternoon from Nottingham. A few from Nottingham I've seen popped up, and London as well. I'm based in central London today as well. Okay, that ticker's going up a bit slower for me now, so I think we are ready to make a start. Let's go to the first slide. Brilliant. So I've seen in the attendee list lots and lots of familiar names, but if you are new to our booster sessions, then welcome. We are Think Productive. We are known for helping make work better for individuals and companies right across the globe. And if you're here today for the first time, welcome. It's lovely to meet you, and you'll get to know us a lot better in this session. So if you've been on any of our sessions before, you'll already know our rules of the road. But this is a time and a space for you guys to get a real boost to your learning, get to know us a bit more, find out what we do, and just have some time for your own development and your own thinking. So the chat is open. Hopefully you've all found the chat. That's the place where you can make notes and comments on questions that are asked. You'll also see at the bottom, there's a Q&A tab as well. That's the place if you've got any specific questions you'd like answered along the way. Obviously, some of you like to make notes, that's fine, but don't feel like you have to write everything down, because the recording will be sent to everyone following the session. So tomorrow you'll get an email and you'll be able to access the recording and share it with your colleagues as well. So I'm going to hand you over to my amazing colleague, Russell, and I will be in the chat monitoring that. So if you've got any questions or need any help, you can reach out to me there.
Thank you so much, Dee. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see you. And just a short session, a little bit around managing upwards for about 30 minutes. And then, as Dee said, we'll have a Q&A after that. Just so people know who I am, some of you might know who I am. I've been working with Think Productive for, oh my goodness me, it must be about 13 years now, maybe long, I don't know, long time. Background banking, did a lot of work with teams. So from a managing upwards perspective, I've actually, of course, myself as well as everybody else has had involvement with managing upwards, but I know I've also been managed upwards. And so I think from my perspective, and this is a good thing, it helps us. So we'll have a little think around what that might mean. So looking forward to kind of working with you this afternoon, albeit for a brief session. I tell you what, just to kick this off, what I'd quite like to do is to just have a bit of a temperature check as to how we rate the relationship that we have with the boss. So what is that like, and how would we describe it, and how would we rate it? So I'm just going to we'll do this on a poll. So let me just call this one up for you. So you're going to have the opportunity just to rate your manager out of 10. All right. Now this is completely anonymous. Trust me, it's completely anonymous. So how would you rate your manager out of 10? So if you would be kind enough just to have a go at that, we'll give you 30 seconds or so just to put that in there, and we'll just see what we get and see how this comes up. We're getting a good mix here, folks. We're getting a good mix. So I'm just going to give you another 10 seconds on this. I think most people have started to vote here. So we'll give you another 5 seconds.
Russell, we've just had a good question. Is 10
Yeah.
low or high?
10 is high. 10 is high. Yeah, 10 is high. Okay, look, I tell you what, I'm going to pull this now. Let's just see what we end up with here. So we'll end the poll, and let's just share these results here. Interesting split here, and I've got to say, this is quite positive, really. We haven't got any ones. That's really good. So we've got no ones there. We have got a few low scores. I would say the bulk of them sit kind of like 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got a few 10s there as well. So, but always interesting just to consider like where we see the relationship, and the relationship is so important as part of managing upwards. If the relationship is really strong, it makes the whole managing upwards much easier. So I guess the question on the back of that is why exactly should we be managing upwards? What's the benefit of this? Why should we care around this? So let's just have a think around this for a moment. A couple of reasons here. If I just share this one with you, just really thinking about why managing upwards is so important. A couple of things here. First of all, it's really important that it feels like you're showing up. Just bear with me just one moment. Sorry, I just need to change something here. So when you're managing upwards, it enables you to kind of be more confident in your role. If you've got a good relationship with your boss, it enables you to just be a little bit more confident in what you're in your actual role. Your ideas are actually heard as well. Sometimes we feel that we've just got to kind of do what we're told sometimes. And actually, this is all about being slightly more proactive rather than reactive in terms of management. So sometimes your ideas are heard. From the manager's perspective as well, if you're the manager, your team, you understand your team's needs much more closely than you would have done without having that feedback from your team as well. And of course, on the back of that, teams work far more effectively as well. A couple of other things here. Your senior leaders lead more effectively. So this is kind of like a fairly critical thing, because if your leaders know and your managers know exactly what the views are from the team, it just helps them lead that little bit more closely. And the last thing is, if everybody is having honest conversations with each other, there's a whole bunch of trust here. There's no kind of secret agendas, and the trust kind of grows across the organization. Just so it is a real win-win for everybody. So it's not just a case of it benefits you or it benefits the manager. It kind of benefits everybody here. So I'd just like to get a little, maybe a few views in chat here around how we see managing upwards. How would we describe managing upwards here? Now, I am just going to put a few prompts on the screen here. Feel free to copy these. If you think actually that nails it for me, Russell, then absolutely fine. But you may well want to put some additional things in chat here. So I'll just flag these through. I think we've got about 10 or so ideas here, and just think around, how do you see managing upwards? Is it getting what I need? Is managing upwards making sure that your agenda is fulfilled? Do you see managing upwards as more about helping your manager, helping them do things? Do you feel they need help and you're the person to do that as well. Is it about clearing your desk a little bit? Maybe delegating upwards, trying to move some of the stuff off your desk and move it upwards rather than you having to do it. So is it about controlling your workload from a point of view of actually either reducing it or perhaps increasing it even as well? Put you in a little bit more control if you are managing upwards well. You might be super protective of your team. And it's almost like if you need to protect them from the manager. So do you see managing upwards as that? Do you feel that it's more about stopping yourself being micromanaged? If you're taking control of that, and we talked about it being kind of proactive rather than reactive. So almost like being ahead of the game here. Is it showing how good you are? Is it about look, manager, look how great I am? Let's get the spotlight on me for a bit. Do you use it as an opportunity to vent frustrations to your manager? Is it a little bit around that as well? A couple of other things here. Are you thinking actually, if I manage upwards really well, this could help my career in some ways? Is it about working together? Is it about feeling more collaborative with your manager? I'm sure nobody on this call is even thinking about bonus, not thinking about money. It's way too materialistic, but could it be something around that as well? Or is it being better than your peers? So what are the thoughts that we've got here? Let's just have a quick look. There's a whole bunch of things going on here. So we've got protecting the team comes up quite a lot here. Dee, if there's anything, you're probably got closer to the chat than I am. If there's any kind of key themes that you see coming out here, do chip in.
Yeah, so a little while ago on the chat, and again, people are saying actually they're finding the biggest kind of pain points isn't with the direct manager, it's with the senior leaders, kind of the layer above. And I thought that was really interesting. And then lots of really good raising awareness, transparency, agility, managing risk, empowered, just lots of really great words here that make it so clear that actually the relationship with the manager affects your role in so many ways. Personal confidence, it's all there.
That's great. And I think if I was to summarize a lot of this, it is that proactive reactive thing. If you are managing upwards, this is you proactively managing your role, managing for your team as well. And this is just to avoid that, will I just get things done to me? So it's a much more proactive way of management as well. That's lovely. Thank you for that, Dee. And thank you everybody for contributing so well on that one. Just a definition on this. This definition that we tend to use around managing upwards. So it's a couple of things going on here. Managing up is the art of building a better relationship with your manager. So it is very much, we've talked about this already, very much about the relationship, good or bad, that you have with your manager. And really the purpose of that is to help us influence. So as key people in the business, we need to be influencing, and it's not just the senior people that make the decisions, it's us as well. So we need to try to use that managing upwards to try and build that relationship, and to then start to think a little bit around the influence as well. So we're going to look at both of these things, and in the actual the course that we run, we go into far more detail, of course, than we're going to do this afternoon. But we are just going to touch on the relationship, and we're going to touch on the influence, and then we'll give you a few hints and tips as well. So, in terms of the relationship element of this, we're just going to do a little bit of an audit here around how you see the manager and how they see you. In particular. So again, we're going to do this by a poll. So let me just launch this one here. So the first one is going to be, how do you see your manager? What words would you describe? Now, there are a series of words on here. You can pick multiple ones. Can I just say, I would tend to go, if you can try and pick just 1, 2, maximum 3 here, rather than just tick all the boxes, that would be good. But how do you see your manager? There's a whole range of descriptions there. You can add something different in the chat if you want to, and Dee will keep an eye on that one as well. But just have a go at thinking, how do I see my manager? And we'll see what comes out in terms of the strongest one here. We've got a really interesting mix here, folks. We're well on the way to completing this. I'm just going to give you a little bit of time just to read through some of these, but I'll give you probably another 10 seconds or so, and then I think we will be there. And then we'll just have a little look at what comes out here. So this is how you see your manager. So I'll give you another 3 seconds on this one, and then we'll end the poll. Okay. So what have we got here? Let's have a look. So the highest one by far is colleague, which is lovely. Closely followed by ally. So that's really good news, actually. But not everybody, you know, some people see their manager as a liability. We've got a couple of friends there, mentor maybe as well. Pest, I'm loving that. We've got 11 people think they're a pest. Oh dear, we've got bully as well. We have got a real mix here. And of course it varies from manager to manager, but it's just useful sometimes reflecting on how do we see the manager, and is that fair? Is that right? You know, do we need to maybe change our mindset a little bit on this every now and again? So, so that's how you see your manager. The second poll I'm going to ask you to have a look at is how do you think your manager sees you? Now, it may well be that this is quite a hard one to answer here because you may never ask them. The items are exactly the same here, but if we could have a go at how you think your manager might see you, that would be great. So I'll let you have a vote there. Again, just top, you know, ideally 1 or 2 choices. If you want to go 3, then go for it, but we'll try to limit it to that. So we're getting a good number of people coming through here. So it just takes a little while just to read through these before you make your decision. So I'm going to give you another 10 seconds or so on this one.
Keith has asked a really nice question in the chat. Keith, do you mind popping that in Q&A so we don't miss it? Because that's one we can definitely come back to a bit later. If you could maybe just copy and paste it there, then when we come back to Q&As, it won't get lost in the chat. And that's the same for anyone. Any Q&As that along the way, any questions that you think, oh, you'd love to pick Russell's brain, pop it in there and then we'll come back to them at the end.
Yeah, don't give me too much of a hard time though. Okay, that's great. So we've got here, do you know what, again, quite similar here. Colleague and ally come up really highly there as well. We've got confidant coming up quite high as well. And then we've got a smattering of some of the more negative ones there as well. Dee, I don't know whether you've had a chance to see if there's any additional ones that have come up in chat there that are worth mentioning.
Yeah, so the first poll, some really, oh, let me just look, make sure I'm looking at the right one. Yeah, so the first poll, people were talking about reactive, a mentor, accessible, good listener. So we had some more positive ones. For this one, some really sad, an employee number. But then also to balance that out, a specialist, knowledgeable and reliable. But then we've got subordinate as well. So just a real mix of experiences. And another great question from Emily. Emily, can we pop that in the Q&A? Because I don't want to miss that question for later on.
That'd be great. Lovely. That's lovely. Thank you for that, Dee. That's brilliant. So the relationship all important, and if we get the relationship right with the manager, then it makes that whole managing up thing much more easier. I'm going to just move it on to the second thing that we were going to talk about here, which is a little bit around influencing, and just to share this one with you as well. So sometimes when we're influencing our manager, we need to be slightly more strategic in terms of how we deal with things. So this is an interesting one. And on the actual course, there's loads of tools that we start to look at, but this is one that that I thought was worthwhile mentioning today. And this is called the scale of influence. So with this one, the first thing, if you're trying to convince your manager to do something, it might be give you a pay rise, I don't know. Where are they on the scale here? Are they down towards that I hate your idea, or are they a little bit further up towards I love your idea? Realistically, we are limited how quickly we can move people up this scale. Now, some of you might be thinking, Russell, it's fine. I can get somebody from a 2 to a 9 just with one meeting. That's fine. Good luck, and you may well be able to do that. But as a general rule, we'd probably struggle to move people up more than 1 or 2 places at any one time. So for instance, let me give you an example. If you wanted to, let's say you wanted to restructure your department or something like that. Initially, people tend not to like change, so you might find that your manager's sitting at a 3. Well, don't try and get them to a 9, not in one hit. You're setting yourself up for a fall. So you've got to think around, what are my interim steps here? So you may choose to say something like, well, look, can we have a meeting, next Wednesday, just a short meeting, because I've got an idea about how we might kind of increase efficiency. So all you're doing is that first step is to just literally have a meeting, and then you're going to have the meeting, and then what you'll probably do is maybe leave some stuff with them around maybe a new organizational chart, maybe some budgeting, and then you arrange for another meeting to discuss how they're going to help with that, how we can start to move that forward. And what you find is that people gradually start to move up the scale a little bit, because then you might have a third meeting, which is what you can provide as support to maybe help them get it through HR or get it through the board or whatever it might be. So this is just a very subtle way of trying to move people gently up the scale here. And often they don't even realize they're being taken up the scale. But this is about gently moving people up to come to your way of thinking. And of course, if the relationship is really good, this becomes much, much easier. If the relationship is not so easy, then it can be a difficult thing to do. Okay. I say we'd cover lots of tools in the actual session, but I just thought it was worth just sharing that one as an idea for you as well. Last couple of things we're going to look at, which is, again, focusing on the relationship you have with your manager, is how well do you know them? And then we'll maybe think a little bit around what possible ideas could we do to improve the relationship. So how well do we know your manager? And feel free to just enter some things in chat here. I've got a few ideas here that we might want to think around, but almost like, what else do I need to find out about my manager that might help here? So just a few things here. Who do they trust? What pressures are on them? Do we know what their pressures are? Are there any particular pressures that we are aware of? Do they have ambitions? What do they want to achieve personally by the end of this year, by the end of next year? What's their leadership style? Have we given them any feedback on that? Is that working for us or not? Strengths and weaknesses. What do we feel their strengths and weaknesses are? And perhaps more pertinently, what do they think their strengths and weaknesses might be too? What scares them? What keeps them awake at night? What drives them? What are their motivations? What are their values on a day-to-day basis? How do they see you? We've talked a little bit around that already. How do they see you? How do you think they see you? Career history. I'm not suggesting that you get hold of the copy of their CV, but it's sometimes useful just knowing what their background is, because that gives you a little bit of context. Do you know that? Would that be worthwhile knowing? What's important to them? What actually matters to them? And actually, does anybody give them a hard time? Is there anything you could do to help with that? So again, just some ideas around in chat here around how well you know your manager, and is there anything that you think maybe you should try to find out about them that you don't currently know? So let's have a look. What have we got here? Anything Dee, that you've picked up on here in terms of the chat around anything that we should be trying to understand about our managers?
Yeah, so an interesting comment there. Part of the problem for this particular person is that their manager is fairly new to the organization. So I thought that was an interesting point to raise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the point with all of this is they're human, and like, a year down the line, you will be the manager, no doubt, and you will still be human. So let's try and find out a little bit about them. What do we need to know, and try to build that relationship with them as well.
We've had
Um,
a really nice question actually that maybe it's best to answer it now rather than leave it to the end, just because it's so relevant. It says, how do you, oh, it's just gone up. People must have put more comments. Let me scroll up. How do you find out these things, especially if people don't like to share? I thought that was a really good question.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this is having a bit of a conversation, a genuine conversation. So, if you feel that relationship is quite standoffish and maybe it's not really a particularly strong one, probably some kind of informal get together. I guess people often have the opportunities of one-to-one. Ask the question. Ask the questions. What can I do? You've got to think around how you might want to ask them, but almost asking a question like, what can I do to help you do your role, can then start a conversation around that, and then almost starts to let the barriers come down a little bit. Yeah.
Russell, something really nice that we do at Think Productive is everyone on the team has a 6-month review with their line manager. And as part of the preparation, both the team member and their line manager have to kind of fill in a form. And one of the questions for the manager is, what should the team member start, stop, and continue for the next 6 months? And then the team member does it for the manager. As a manager, what would help me for you to start, stop, and continue? And that just really kind of helps, because it's part of the formal thing of what we do and it's ingrained in our processes. We don't have to kind of unnaturally find a way of subtly telling someone, oh, when you do this, it kind of bugs me. It's just it's expected. And if you don't have a start, stop, and continue for your manager, then you have to go away and figure one out. So it's just a really nice thing that we do that maybe other teams could introduce.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Dee. And I think just, if you're sitting there as a manager and you're thinking, well, actually, I probably do need to open up a little bit, maybe asking your team, what could I do differently? Now, if you just say to them, what am I like as a manager? They're going to tell you that you're fantastic because you're their boss. But if you turn around and say, give me one thing that I could do differently, you're giving them permission to offload. And that's really, really important. Otherwise, you'll just get what they think you want to hear. So we've got to be really good with our questioning around this to try to find out a little bit. But it works both ways. It works both ways. Okay, look, last thing just to think about here is a few ideas here about how to improve that relationship. If you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, okay, I get on pretty well, and a lot of you do. You sounds like you've got great relationships with your managers, which is wonderful. But if you want to take it up to the next level, then just a few things to think around here. And obviously, again, in the actual session, we cover this in a lot of detail, but this is just a little bit of a flavor for some ideas here. So try to provide solutions, not problems. We're very good sometimes at just like coming up to the manager and saying, oh, I've got an issue. What do we do? Try and get into the habit of coming up with like 3 solutions and a recommendation is probably a good way to do this. And it's just a little bit more of a can-do approach rather than just overloading them with problems as well. Be prepared to take on more in terms of, don't overload yourself. Please don't overload yourself. We don't want people burning out. But if you've got a bit of spare capacity, maybe take on something that's maybe it's more responsibility than time. That's something that's going to take a lot of time doing, but start to think a little bit around what that could be for you. This is a bit of a life skill, a bit of a life hack more than anything else, but being sure that you don't get labeled in the wrong way. Keep confidences, and just kind of like stick to the plan. It's very easy to end up getting dragged down into the gossip thing, which doesn't necessarily leave you in a good place either. Um, be really collaborative with what's going on, working well with your peers. Sometimes we feel there's a bit of competition with peers, and there shouldn't be. We should all be focused on the end game here. So demonstrating that you work well with the people that you work with. Glass half full, of course. If you're working with people who have a negative mindset, it's like energy vampires. They suck your energies, and people tend not to want to be around people like that. So just make sure it's a can-do, not a deluded mindset, but a positive, what can we do about this practically to make it happen, rather than what can we do to stop it happening.
Russ,
Yeah, sorry.
oh, we just had a question just linked to this. What if your manager doesn't give you time to talk? How do you because to do these things, it kind of requires you to have that time and space to talk. But how do you get the time if you're not getting it?
Yeah, so I think it's probably it's critical that does happen, but that people do have that opportunity to be able to speak with their manager. And I think sometimes you can almost blame yourself a little bit and just say to the manager, look, it would really help me if once a week, once a month, you and I were to just sit down over a coffee and just to talk stuff through. And almost like blame it on yourself a little bit, and just say, well, look, that would really help me if we could do that. Now, I can't imagine that there'd be many managers that would turn around to that and say, no, I'm not giving you any of my time. So I would hope that would be something that could be easily, but it might need to be you proactively pushing that, because they may never have done it. They may think in their mindset might be, I come to work, I need to manage all this stuff, and to make sure that we deliver what we need to deliver on time. And maybe the one-to-one bit has not really featured heavily on their agenda. So it might need you to gently persuade them to be able to do that. But a really good question. Yeah. There's always time. There's always time. Last one there. An interesting one, this one, trying to develop good relationships, not just with your boss, but with other senior people as well. It's all about profile raising. And if your boss can see that you've got a good relationship with other senior people, his peers perhaps, or her peers, then that can certainly start to have a positive impact as well. Okay, look, we have kind of scratched the surface a little bit here. But hopefully you found some of that useful. Dee, I think you're gonna maybe just pick up on some of the questions if you want to do that. I'm just kind of gently hand it back to you, and just don't give me a hard time here, Dee. But yeah, so but I'll try and answer any questions that people have got.
Oh, that's brilliant. I might pinpoint people to kind of where to go next if they want to find more information. On the next slide, it just prompts a little bit. There we go. So if today has been just a really great taster, giving you a bit of a boost and you're hungry for more, or you think this is something that would really work in your organization or with some of your team members, we'd love to chat a little bit about delivering this for you. And then on the next slide, that is just our email address, the best way of getting in touch. If you kind of want to bypass the email and you just want to straight away have a bit of a chat about how this workshop or any others we do could be useful for you and your team, I've just popped my calendar link in there as well. Hopefully, on the next slide, you're going to see, there we go. We've got another session coming up. This is a public workshop that's ticketed. So something we can help with in terms of emails, helping you get your email to 0 and all those kind of things. And I'm going to pop the link to that in the chat as well. And then the last slide I just want to draw your attention to is that, especially if this is your first time at a taster session, we run them every month. So again, I'm just going to pop this link in the chat. Please do sign up, share the sign up with colleagues and friends. And then very soon we're going to be launching all the 2026 sessions as well. It feels really early to be saying that, but we'll be launching them. So do keep an eye on the website. And then back now to the questions. Would you like me to pick them out, Russell?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, right. So we always try and end the last 5 or 10 minutes with some questions. It's brilliant. We've got 7 waiting for us. Okay, so the first question is, how do I deal with a boss who does not deal well with emotion? For example, if I'm upset, there is a second part to that question, but maybe that I can answer that separately.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, every boss is different, and we need to understand every single boss has a different style. Again, when we running the main session, we do look in some detail at what the boss is like and some strategies to be able to deal with that, because not everybody wants to be that close to their teams and their staff. So we have to understand that, but that does not mean that we can't manage upwards. We just need to do it in a slightly different way. So this is just understanding what your boss is like and psychologically, where are they, what are they, you know, how do they like to work, and having a real understanding of that, and then letting that impact our way on how we actually then influence that person.
Fantastic. And then the second part of that question was that they find that their manager doesn't give feedback very well and is quite hard to read. So I guess they feel a bit like they don't know how they're doing, or they don't know how they're seen.
Well, I think feedback should be given like at least once a week. Anything much less than that is a bit of a starvation diet. So again, going back to what I said earlier on, ask for it. Like just say, look, it would be really helpful for me to understand how I'm doing. I don't want to wait for the appraisal. I don't want to wait for my mid-year review. You know, could we book out 10 minutes? I just want to get a bit of view. If you've done a project, like how did that go? What are the lessons learned on that project? How did I do? And again, asking that question, what could I do differently, is probably an important question to ask.
And Russell, also like making the business case for it by saying to your manager, if we meet and if you give me feedback on that, that is going to help me meet this target or work towards this KPI. Like it might, you might want it on a human level, but actually maybe with a manager that's a bit more strategic or numbers in terms of what motivates them, the business case might help them. We've got another question. Managing upwards is about open, honest, transparent conversations. Similar question, what strategies when it seems to be one-way traffic? Similar, I think, to the last one. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think there is not one way of doing this. Every single boss is different. Every single employee is different, and it is thinking in the moment. What can I do? What's my strategy around this? And there are a whole bunch of strategies which we haven't got time to cover this afternoon. A whole bunch of strategies that we can employ depending upon what they're like, and we can look at some word patterns. And we'll on the course we would actually also go through some scenarios. How would you deal with this, and kind of a little bit of get people to think around, you know, what word patterns would they use to be able to deal with a particular situation.
Yeah, some really tricky questions actually coming up, very context specific. So for this person, they've said their boss isn't providing the strategic direction that they need. This particular person is the head of department, so is responsible for the strategy, but the manager above them isn't providing the strategic direction. So what can they do to get that?
Well, it might well be, I mean, again, we could repeat the same thing in terms of asking for it, and sometimes we're a little bit shy of doing that. So I think we need to be confident enough to be able to ask for it, but it may well fall into our lap. So just because it hasn't been provided, or if it hasn't been provided, we might need to come up with it. And if you come up with your strategy for your team, you can then present that and say, look, this is what I'm thinking. Am I on the right lines with this? And you will be amazed how often the boss just turns around and says, "Oh, that's really good. Maybe I should have told you that." But at least you're then on the same page. So I think sometimes it's very easy to not blame the manager, but to kind of wait for them. And this is about proactively driving your own job and achieving what you need to have to enable you to do your job really well.
This next person, this doesn't say that they're working remotely or hybrid, because my answer would be to knock on their door, but let's presume it is, and this is a hybrid or a remote setting. How do I deal with a manager who just doesn't respond to emails or chats?
Wow. Okay. That's not ideal, is it? I think this manager might need a little bit of feedback. Um, and and when you're giving feedback, the principles are the same. Whether you're giving feedback to a member of your team or whether you're giving a feedback to the member of the management, the principles are the same. However, you probably just need to do it with a little bit of kid gloves so that you don't cause offence. Again, I think a useful word pattern is "it would help me if." Um, and we don't want to kind of end up criticizing as such, because that's when the defenses go up. So it's almost like, so we can make this team brilliant, it will be really helpful if, and almost do that. You could also encourage, you could almost like maybe organize a meeting where they have to be part of it. And maybe you influence it so that they've got to do a little bit of a Q&A. So subtly, you then get them to tell you what they think on things and force them to answer on things.
There's one question for me. For your workshops, do you offer a price for a group to attend? So I've made a note of this person's name, and just to rest assured, I'm going to reach out to you via email with our prices and all the different ways, whether it's a public or an in-house workshop, that we can address a group. If anyone else wants prices as well, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, another question is, how do I manage upwards for the senior staff who do not manage us? So there's not a personal relationship, but they still need to work together.
Dee, sorry, can you just say that one again? How do I manage?
Yeah, so how do I manage the senior staff who I still need to work with and do work with, but they're not my line manager? So they don't really, this
Oh,
person doesn't feel like they have a reason for keeping them on side like a manager might.
So effectively stakeholders, maybe sometimes almost matrix management can sometimes have that kind of input with that as well. This is about building the strong relationships with the people that we work with. That last point on that last slide, if we've got really good relationships with the senior people in various parts of the organization, not just your own directorate or function, but beyond that, it makes the conversation so much easier, and it kind of oils the wheels a little bit. And so they end up, part of the influencing skills is they end up doing stuff because they love you to bits. They know you really well, and when people know each other really well, they're far more likely to try to assist. So it is that relationship building bit, and then calling in a few favors when we feel that we need to.
I think,
Sorry, Dee, just to add on to that, if you've got a really good relationship with your manager, of course, then there is that opportunity to have that kind of peer-to-peer talking if you wanted to raise it through your own manager and do it that way. But it's always better if you can deal directly with them.
Russell, I've picked out one last question. How can I work, like, how do I deal with a boss who can't see past a mistake that I made 3 years ago, even though I'm doing great work now?
Wow. Okay. That is quite sad, really, because we should, of course, be moving on from things, and nobody is perfect. Perhaps it's an honest conversation, because for that particular individual, 99% of what they do will be brilliant. And so we personally need to take that on board and not focus on that 1%. Everybody messes up every now and again, and that's fine, and we learn by it. Mistakes are good. There's nothing wrong with mistakes, but maybe this is conversation of being really kind of try a transparent conversation with the boss and just say that this gets brought up a long time, regularly, but it's a long time ago. What do I need to do to try to move on from this? What can we do to try to move on from this? Because I feel I probably do a pretty good job at everything else, but if this is still an issue, let's have a conversation. Sorry, Dee, can't quite hear you there.
Thanks. There's still a few questions in the chat and a couple in Q&A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collate those questions, and then we can answer them maybe on LinkedIn over the next few days, few weeks, so that we can push out some of these great questions with some ideas and share it in our community.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Thank you, Dee.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for everyone who took the time to join us. Almost everyone has stayed right until the end, so thank you so much.